People always ask us, aren't you scared to travel in India with kids? Is it even safe? And honestly, yes, there are risks, but they're actually not the risks most people imagine. Today, I'm going to break down the real dangers families face traveling anywhere in Asia, the things no one actually warns you about, and exactly how we stay safe as a family of 3 while traveling the world through Europe, Australia, Southeast Asia, and now India. Because once you understand what the real risks are, traveling with kids becomes a lot less scary and a lot more doable. Those dramatic fears, they're almost never the real threat. The real risks are quieter, more common, and totally preventable. When people worry about safety when traveling, they mainly think about crime. But the biggest danger to families traveling the world is actually burnout, exhaustion, tiredness, tantrums, kids overwhelmed with it all, and the parents emotionally drained. And the reason this is a really important risk and an important danger to be aware of is because burnt out, overwhelmed, exhausted parents often miss the risks, the dangers, the cues. They make bad decisions. They don't notice the things that actually do matter. Burnout and exhaustion, kids and adults, are usually caused by a few things that are easily managed and avoided. Trying to pack too many things into your itinerary is a fast track to exhaustion. If you are traveling for a few months and you want to see every country in the world and every city in those countries and all of the tourist attractions and visit every Disneyland and all of the things, you are going to be burnt out very, very quickly. And so are your kids. You're not going to enjoy it. You're not going to have fun. You're just going to be worn out. So trying to travel from this place to this place, catching flights, catching trains, catching buses, doing all the things, catching taxis, tuk-tuks, it doesn't matter how you get around. It doesn't even matter how luxurious your transport options are. It's still going to be very, very tiring, especially for little ones. Changing locations too quickly also impacts your routine. And although one of the reasons we escaped England is to escape routines and mundane life, yes, that will still follow you. You will still have the routines and the mundane life anyway. It's life, right? Especially with kids. But it's also worth remembering, and I think this is really important, that kids generally need a bit of routine. They need a little bit of stability, a bit of structure in their day. They need to know what is going to happen and when and how it's going to look. So, for example, if you are rushing around from place to place with this busy itinerary, they're going to be getting up out of bed early, running around these tourist attractions, hoping to see everything, quick lunch somewhere, then rush home again, and it's exhausting. And if each day is different, they're not going to have any sense of stability and routine. And actually that can be really challenging for kids and a lot of adults as well. Along with that as well is if you're not communicating your plans clearly to your children, it can be really disorientating as well for everybody. If you don't really know exactly what it is that you're doing, if your kids don't know what they're going to be doing one day to the next, 1 week to the next, 1 hour to the next, that can be very, very overwhelming for children. So always try and remember to communicate clearly what you're doing and why you're doing it and how the day is going to look for your kids. Because then you're preventing all these big meltdowns. There's nothing worse than your kids having a meltdown in the middle of, a temple or a busy shopping centre or a train station or something. And when they really have the mother of all meltdown happens, it's the last thing you need. So how to prevent this happening? Well, actually, it's not that hard. It's about slow travel. This is going to be great for not only your kids, but for your mental health as well. Try and aim for a minimum of 3 to 4 nights in each place. The longer you can spend in each location, the easier it is for the kids to regulate their nervous systems, feel less overwhelmed and stressed, And of course, you can do exactly the same. Factor in non-negotiable rest days. Now, I've met families who have spent every day doing things on their busy itinerary. You know, they get to Bali and they want to go to the water parks, the beach, they want to go to see the zoo, they want to do this, they want to do everything in a really short space of time. And within a few days, their kids are burnt out, exhausted, they're overstimulated and tired. And that's when the meltdowns happen. Once they recognize this and go, that's it, tomorrow we're doing nothing, it's a rest day. You factor in a rest day into your busy week where you do nothing. You get up whenever you want to get up. There's no alarm, there's no rush, there's nothing to do, nowhere to be. The kids can do what they want. If they want to sit and read books, if they want to play on their games, if they want to play cards, if you want to go to the beach and just build sandcastles, whatever it is that you want to do, as a family, do it. Have a rest day, have a day of reconnecting, grounding, centering, and maybe even just sleep half the day if that's what you need to do. And along with that is also to try and factor in some sort of routine. So maybe have a regular bedtime sort of routine, you know, especially with younger kids. Try and have a regular bedtime and then maybe read a story with them, have a wind down routine that is predictable, and they can help. It really helps them to feel connected to you as a parent. But even things like meal times, maybe where you go for dinner, maybe have something that you do every day that is predictable and regular. Maybe go to the beach every evening for sunset, or maybe have breakfast together. Have something, a couple of things during the day that it's like touch points during the day that they can predict is going to happen, and it's a time for them to feel centered and reconnect with you as a family. Another really good hack, especially if you're lucky enough to be in a couple, is if one parent is feeling really overwhelmed and stressed, as we do regularly, they can tap out for a bit. So if one of you is just having a really hard day and not coping too well with the kids and the busyness and whatever else is going on, maybe that person can go and have a walk on the beach, go for a drink, go for a yoga class, a massage, whatever it is they need to do, or even just go and read a book somewhere. And the other parent can just take charge, even if it's just for an hour or an afternoon. And that is a really, really simple but incredibly helpful way to manage both parents' stress. Obviously, if you're on your own, if you're a single parent, it's not as easy, but what tends to happen when we're traveling the world is that we tend to find communities. We find our tribe when we're doing this, and more often than not, parents, especially single parents, really step up and support each other with taking care of the kids. So find your tribe, find your community. Transport mistakes. Getting around in a different country can be quite difficult at the best of times. When you have kids, it can be quite stressful. And there are definitely risks that it's worth being aware of about travel and transport. Obviously, if you're jumping in a taxi or a tuk-tuk, some drivers are better than others. Some drivers are brilliant, and some drivers have a death wish, I'm sure of it. And it can be really, obviously you don't know until you start. If you don't feel safe getting into a taxi or during the ride, you are within your rights to stop and ask to get out. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you don't feel safe, ask them to slow down, or you can ask them to stop and you can get out and get a different taxi. But don't forget, they do drive differently in a lot of countries. Road rules aren't the same. In fact, road rules don't seem to exist in a lot of countries. So if your taxi driver seems to be driving like a complete lunatic, he actually might be driving like everybody else in that country. So you know, it's one of those things where, do you sit back and trust, or do you want to get out and get a different taxi? Trust your gut, trust your instinct, do what you need to do. If you're hiring a scooter or a bike, you need to get a helmet. Even if the locals don't seem to wear helmets normally, and even if some tourists don't wear helmets, in most countries, the law still states the driver has to wear a helmet. So even from a legal perspective, if you don't have a helmet on and you have an accident your insurance might be invalid. You might not be able to claim back on your insurance because you didn't have a helmet on. So I would check that, and I would wear a helmet even just for that reason. The other reason is the police are more likely to pull over a Westerner who doesn't have a helmet, so they can get a fine from you. Obviously, there's also the safety aspect. When we travel with Jai, the first thing we do is we go and find a bike shop, a helmet shop, and we buy a helmet that fits him. He has to wear a helmet. There is no negotiating around that. He has to wear a helmet every time he gets on that bike. But there's no point trying to get a kid's helmet from the scooter hire shop because they probably won't have kids' helmets. So make sure you buy a helmet that fits your child properly. And they're not expensive. Overnight buses can be great as well, and they're an experience, although you tend to arrive at your destination absolutely exhausted, so that's another thing to be aware of. Overnight trains are often a lot better because you do get a bed to sleep on, and you do get some privacy. At least you get a curtain. And the kids love overnight trains. It's more of an adventure, isn't it? And I prefer overnight trains when I'm travelling across long distances. And the last thing, which is probably the most important thing actually, is teaching your child the rules of the road when walking. Pedestrians are always a high risk of being hit by a car, a bike, a cyclist. You need to teach your kids the way the local roads work. So try to walk on the side of the traffic facing you, coming the way it's facing you, so that you can see what's coming at you. But never, ever, ever, ever believe that you are okay to cross the road without looking both ways multiple times, because bikes and cars can come out of nowhere on Asian roads. Pedestrian crossings, the drivers just ignore them and they will just go anyway. So if you're going to cross the road, be very, very careful. Make sure your child knows to stay with you and hold your hand. And little tip is just to stick with the locals. Follow the locals as they cross the road, because they will just go and all the traffic will go around them. For us tourists, we're crossing the road, we're stopping and starting, and that's when accidents can happen. Okay, food and water choices, right? Most people have this preconceived idea that if you're going to go to another country, you're going to get food poisoning, Delhi belly or Bali belly. And actually, that's not the case anymore. I remember back 20, 30 years ago, if you went to India, you're pretty much guaranteed to get sick. I've been sick in lots of countries, but I've also been sick in the UK and in Australia. So it doesn't hold true that you're only going to get sick in foreign countries. But you do need to be aware of what you're eating. Some of the real risks are ice. So if you are in a very touristy area, hotels, things like that, chances are the ice will be safe. If the ice is a perfect shape, as in made by a machine, you're okay. If the ice looks like it's been chipped at by a person, a big block of ice and chipped, it might not be safe. It might be normal water that they've chipped at and made into ice cubes. So only get ice that looks like it's been made by a machine. Avoid things like buffet food, because if the food has been sitting out for a long time in the warm weather, chances are it's going to be starting to grow its little bacteria and flies will be in there and things. So avoid buffet food. Only eat freshly cooked food. If you're in the more local areas, markets, places like that, street food, always look for freshly cooked food. So if the food is being cooked per order, you are okay. If there is steam, you are okay. If there is a line of people and everybody's there ordering their food, you will be okay. If there's lots of locals there, you will be okay. Avoid vegetables, like salads, for example, are a prime one. If you are in a place that you're not sure about the cleanliness and the hygiene, don't have a salad because it has to be washed. Things like fruit, if you're going to have apples and pears and fruit that doesn't need peeling, make sure they're being peeled, or you can wash them yourselves in your room with some boiling water, then they know they're clean. Make sure you clean your hands. It's a very, very simple one, but most restaurants in other countries have like a wash basin where people will just wash their hands. Go and wash your hands. Make sure your hands are clean. You can use hand sanitizer if you want to. Always make sure you drink bottled water or filtered water. And that goes for cleaning your teeth as well. And like I said, washing fruit and vegetables. ice cubes, all has to be either bottled or filtered water. Don't use water from the tap for any of those things. And finally, just in case, always bring some oral rehydration salts in your first aid kit, just in case you get a dodgy tummy. I also like to make sure I eat probiotics all the time. So here in India, there is lots of curd, so the yogurt. They also have a lot of fermented food here. So if your country that you're in has lots of fermented food, so pickles, kimchi, anything like that, try and have some of that every day just to give your stomach the bugs that it actually needs, the good bacteria to support your digestive system. I actually haven't been sick traveling this year at all. Since we left the UK, in a year and a half, I haven't been sick once. Touch wood. I have been sick in Nepal, in India, in Thailand, and like I said, in Australia and in the UK. So just because you're in a country where people might get sick or used to get sick all the time doesn't mean you will if you just follow the very simple guidelines and make sure you stay safe with your food. Losing kids in busy places. I think this is my number one fear, actually, as a parent now. You know, this isn't something just out of those scary movies we watch. This is something that really could happen in real life. If you're in a busy market, a busy city, again, it doesn't have to be in Asia or South America. This could happen in London or Sydney. It could happen anywhere in the world. Losing your kid is a real fear of many, many parents. The reality is, chances are, if you are separated from your child, you will find them again within minutes. That's normally what happens. But there are some ways to sort of mitigate that risk and hopefully make that temporary separation last much, much shorter. One really good tip, and I actually used to do this in England as well, is put your kid in bright clothes. If your child is wearing, you know, black or something muted colours, white, anything like that, it's actually hard to spot them in a crowd. If your child has bright red t-shirt on, or bright pink, or has tie-dye or something like that, or a really brightly coloured hat, you're more likely to spot them in a crowd or across a busy beach than you would if they're just wearing something very plain. If you are going somewhere where you know is going to be busy, a festival, a city, a really good idea is to pre-arrange a meeting spot just in case you get lost. So maybe when you first arrive at that place, find a sign or a stall or something that's really obvious for the child to remember where it is, and so this is, if we get lost, we'll meet here. We've also taught Jai that if he is in a busy place and he suddenly realises we're not there and he can't see us, to stay where he is. If you don't have a meeting point, this is another really good thing to do. So if you're in a city and you don't have a meeting point, get them to just stand where they are. Because the thing is, if they start wandering around trying to find you again, and you're wandering around trying to find them, you might be going in opposite directions. If your child is staying exactly where they were last time they saw you, you can backtrack. You can go back where you were, where you walked, and they'll still be there. So that's something we've always taught Jai, especially in places where you can't organise a meeting point. And if you're really worried, obviously you can buy like the air tags or backpack tags, so you can have them, you can trace where they are at any time. That's not an option for Jai because he just wouldn't have it on him. He never carries a bag. But if your kid always carries a bag or something, then it's a really great option. And I think the important thing to note here is, while you don't want to scare your kids and put the fear of God in them about being lost, it's also really important that you prepare them and you educate them and you give them some skills and knowledge about what to do if the worst happens. Accommodation risks. So some of the risks with accommodation, especially if you're staying somewhere lower cost, somewhere budget, but this can happen anywhere, are potential safety issues with the room or with the hotel. If you're staying somewhere that has a balcony, make sure that your child can't squeeze through the railings in the balcony. You know, make sure that the balcony area is safe. You don't want them to fall off. If there is a swimming pool, make sure there is a fence and a gate around the pool or a lifeguard. Make sure they have pool safety awareness. Plus, obviously, if your child is going to go in the pool or the sea, at least one adult is going to be watching them at all times. Don't let them out of your sight because accidents can happen so fast. Travel with a small first aid kit. I always do. I mean, I was a nurse for 16 years, so it's like ingrained in me that I have to have this first aid kit. But things like children's paracetamol, plasters, some iodine or betadine. I take some children's antihistamines as well, just in case of some sort of reaction to something, and then anti-diarrhea tablets as well. So if you've got the basics, then you're going to be okay, at least until you get your child to a doctor if need be. You do need to be aware, obviously, of locks and security, especially on the ground floor, but in any room. So just make sure that, the room is secure. Windows and doors, you can lock them and you feel safe and secure. And have a safe in your room. That's ideal. If you've got a safe in your room, that's brilliant. You can put your passports in there. If reception has a safe and you feel happy with that, you can ask them to lock your passports away, or we just hide them somewhere. If there's no safe in the room, we hide our passports away from our bags, somewhere that no one is likely to look, behind the fridge or somewhere completely random like that. You can't control everything, but you can reduce the risks of some things. Not understanding local norms. Safety really does improve when you understand what is okay and what is not okay in the country that you're in. So things like, how do locals cross the road? I mean, honestly, most roads in a lot of countries are quite hair-raising, but the locals just walk. But they know how to do it. They've been doing it their whole lives. This is why I say, if you're worried about crossing the road, cross with a local, because they will get you across if you're stopped and it's just chaos everywhere. If you can, try and find out any scams that might be common in that area. Now, there's scams all over the world. Every country has them. Every city has them. But if you are pre-warned, you are pre-armed. And actually, you don't want to be falling for some common scams that you can easily avoid if you just find out what they are. And then, of course, be aware of cultural expectations around kids. Most countries in Asia and South America love children and they welcome children with open arms. Sometimes you might find that they want to touch your child, maybe on the head, or have photos with them quite a lot, especially in somewhere like China. You'll find that children, they want to take photos with your child, which seems very, very strange. And you are well within your rights to say no, of course, but that genuinely doesn't mean any harm. Like all the countries I've been in, kids are more than welcome. The locals love to meet new kids, and they've had an amazing experience. Always, 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 when it comes to this, trust your instincts. If you feel like something isn't quite right, remove yourself and remove your child. That is okay to do. You do not have to feel bad about doing that. Make sure you and your child are safe. That's the priority. The greatest risk of all is staying at home because of fear. Traveling the world over the last year and a half has made Jai more confident, braver, more sure of himself, more adaptable, more curious, and it has made us stronger as a family. There is no such thing as zero risk, and that applies wherever you are in the world, including in your hometown. But there is such a thing as educated risk, and that's something we practice every day. If this video has helped you feel more confident about traveling the world with your family, you will love our free quick start guide to family travel. In it, it walks you through budgeting, choosing your first destination, avoiding burnout, and avoiding those beginner travel mistakes. And if you're serious about making travel your lifestyle, check out our support and our step-by-step resources to help you make it happen sooner than you think. All of the links are in the description. And don't forget to like and subscribe and keep watching for more real family travel videos. Bye.